Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tactical Harmony. And I am so jazzed and thrilled and elated to welcome today's amazing, special, and such a meaningful guest for me and my journey. And it's the one and only Johnna Devereaux. Johnna is a functional human and clinical pet nutritionist and the founder of Whole House Nutrition, a systems-based approach that looks at how diet, environment, and daily habits shape health for people and their pets. Grounded in over a decade of experience in pet nutrition, she helps clients identify root causes, shift subconscious patterns, and create lasting change through nutrition, lifestyle, and hypnosis. Johnna is also the founder of Fetch Rhode Island, a nationally recognized holistic pet boutique. Her expertise has been featured on Fox News, PBS, Good Housekeeping, The Daily Mail, the American Kennel Club, and more. Johnna, welcome to the Tactical Harmony Show.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so excited to dive in. And for those who may not know, in my previous life with NCIS, I had the blessing and honor to live around the world. One of my duty stations was in the great Northeast here in the United States, in Rhode Island. And that is where I met Johnna at the amazing Fetch Rhode Island. And she has been a blessing in my life and in my dogs' lives, Clover, Diego, and Ivy. So I just had to do that plug for her before we start answering these questions. Y'all want to just turn the volume up, get your notes out, because this is going to be chock full of goodness. Johnna, let's start off kind of towards the beginning. You studied herbs for so many years, right? Like I think it was when you were a teenager at the age of 15. And I would love to hear, how did you get started into that world?
So my spirit is I'm a wood nymph and I loved being out in nature. So when I was a kid, I was the one that was in the backyard playing within the ferns and the woods and the rivers and the lakes, and I just found myself loving plants. And I had really bad acne when I went through puberty. And all of the pharmaceuticals really were harmful. I was on Accutane for I actually went on Accutane like 4 times, which is a really toxic and potent drug. It served its purpose for cystic acne, but um, it never really solved the problem. So there was knock number 1 on what my life was going to be, right? And I didn't know it at the time. And I remember one day I was out in my backyard and, my parents' house, there were wild violets everywhere. And I was just like playing in the violets because I love the color purple. And I was looking at the leaf and I picked one up and you know, was trying to, I don't know why, but there was this sense that this plant could help me. And there was an herb store in Wickford, Rhode Island at the time called the Herb Wife. And I went there and I talked to an herbalist by the name of Susan and asked her, and she goes, "Well, violet is highly anti inflammatory and it's really good for the skin." And so that was my first experience with, wow, like I feel on an energetic level, a plant just communicated to me because I would have not known nor been attracted to that plant for any other reason. I was a child. Susan ended up being my mentor. And I've worked with her for the last 30 plus years, learning about different herbs and how to use them, how to make different, salves and tinctures and glycerites and ways to apply them. And it's just been, that was my introduction to it, really, was just me playing outside and being a kid. Like, how cool is that?
That's so cool. And it kind of taps into so many things. The playfulness, the curiosity that is so present with children and younger people and pets, as it were. And as adults, we grow and our ego gets in the way and we kind of go away from that. And I have found that, creativity and all of the amazing things that are born come from that beautiful, playful, curious place. And seriously, that was the case for you. And also the body's innate wisdom that you knew on a cellular level, that you tapped into the wisdom and you just knew energetically, as you said, intuitively, that this was going to help you. And it absolutely was spot on. And so got to ask this question as you mentioned it. So how are you able to help others understand that everyone has this gift? Like everyone can kind of tap into this. Maybe they don't realize they have this ability. Can you walk us through like an introduction into how someone can recognize these gifts and start to exercise that muscle, if you will?
So, one of the things we have to remember at the most foundational level is that we are all animals, right? And so, specifically, when we think about herbs, zoopharmacognosy is a study of science of animals using plant as medicine. It is this intuitive way of being connected with nature around us. I feel very blessed that I, throughout my entire life, have been able to experience that very openly. I feel like there are a lot of people that are similar to me, and there are a lot of people that it's uncomfortable. They don't understand necessarily what these feelings are or what it is that is coming up inside of them. And so rather than having that exploring nature, they push it away. And that's not with judgment that I say that. I say it with love because those are the people that probably could benefit from it the most. Um, but I always explore a conversation with anyone that I'm talking to, which is just be open. Actually, the easiest thing that I ever do is, and this happens in my store all the time, is when someone comes in the store, because I not only work with them in private practice, but also if they come through my store, I'm there on Sundays and I help them as I did you. Um, and they'll come in and they'll say, what can I do for my dog? And I'll say, well, I know what they need. And I'll whisper it to their whoever there is with them in the store, and I'll put down 3 herbs and I will space them out. And the dog 99.9% of the time goes up to the herb, knocks the bottle over or licks the bottle and leaves the other 2. I'm like, "Yep, that's how you know. That's how you trust." So, it's just about trusting nature, right? And it's something that we've unfortunately, I feel, gotten so far away from. We don't even know what food is anymore. We ascribe food as being what you go to the grocery store and get on the inner aisles versus I go in my backyard and I get food. I pick dandelion leaves, I'm eating food. I have lemon balm. Like I grow these things. And, it's just so well, let me put it to you this way. I think we're at a really amazing time right now in our world that people are opening up and understanding that there are other options than what we've been told from mainstream media. And I think that we are living in a phenomenal moment where we can expand our own health, our own knowledge, and our own well being because of it. If you choose to be open and curious, curiosity at the end of the day is the most powerful thing that you can have. You'll never know everything. And if you think you do, well, then that's where you start to fall short.
Oh, so beautifully and eloquently stated. And I could not agree with you more. And for those of you that are listening and not watching, I have been nodding my head and smiling because she is just hitting home run after home run. And Johnna, like we focus on holistic leadership here in Tactical Harmony. So if we can't lead ourselves, we can't lead others. That includes our mind, our body, and our spirits. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all of that matters. I know I'm preaching to the choir with you. We are all beautifully integrated and as one. And P.S. I had dandelion tea earlier today, so I seen you. Anyway, but yeah, we are in such a beautiful, wonderful time. And I always do my best and like you, without judgment, right? Everyone has their own journey and their own evolution. And I truly believe people do the best they can and exercise the resources that they have to the best of their ability. But when you see something, you can't unsee it. When you know something, you can't unknow it. So try acupuncture, try food as medicine, right? Like be playful with it, and your body is going to tell you. And I remember for Clover, I don't know if you'll remember. Well, you probably will. I remember Clover was having some digestive issues. And I said, Johnna, help. And at that point, I wasn't raw feeding. I was I was a virgin. I didn't know. And I wanted to get better. And I knew there was better ways out there. So I started my journey. And I remember you said, if it was poultry or chicken, you're like, just give them one piece. you're going to know. You're going to know immediately if it's chicken. Because I thought it was chicken. I was diagnosing him. It was not chicken. He was just fine. And I gave him a piece of organic chicken. And it ended up being, the high-end kibble that at the time I was giving him, I didn't know. And then when I switched to raw food and goat's milk and bone broth and the herbs and blueberries and health food, he changed. Diego changed. And I just was blown away.
Yeah, it is. You know, I owe my own health journey to my boy, Diego, and that is another reason that we have been brought together is that I've never met another dog named Diego except when you came in and I remember. So I have my big 90-pound Amstaff pity mix, and you're in here with little Diego that's maybe 8 pounds. And I was like, wow, how cool is this? Um, Diego, my Diego, when I had adopted him, I brought him home thinking it was going to be so easy, right? Having this healthy, roly poly puppy. And I put him on what I thought was going to be the best kibble. And within a very short amount of time, he had rashes popping out. He had ear infections all the time, like regularly. He had skin irritations and infections. And I went back to the veterinarian, I don't know, his first 6 months of life. I probably was there 12 or 14 times. He was on steroids a number of times. And then the vet kept saying, because that's what they know, that's what they're taught. I respect vets to the utmost. They're just not really taught nutrition. More of them are now, but back then, we're going back 15 to 16 years. He said, oh, just go to another kibble. So I did my research on all the kibbles because raw feeding wasn't really being talked about back then. And I found a book. And because, I went to the library 15 years ago. I don't know. That's what I did was books. I love my books. And I saw about home cooking. And I started thinking about this, like, as an herbalist, someone that like goes back to basics. Why was I not going back to the basics of what quality of food, right? So you could have an expensive kibble, but kibble, even if it's a high quality kibble, is still going to be a lower quality than fresh whole food. And as soon as I realized that, the light bulb went off and I started making his food. And within weeks, Rebecca, his skin started clearing up, the ear infections stopped recurring, and he no longer needed to be on medicine of any sort. And I realized at that moment, I had no idea what I was doing. I was putting things in a bowl, essentially hoping for the best, but I realized that I'm potentially creating an insufficiency or possibly a deficiency. And so that's when I went to school to become a clinical pet nutritionist. And that's when everything changed. He started getting healthier and I started getting healthier because I grew up in that time frame where low fat was the way to be. And I don't know if you even remember this, but like olestra, like all the things that were horribly bad because fat was the enemy. And if you want to stay skinny and if you want to be healthy, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I I learned so much by watching him. And what I realized, and this is the most important lesson that I learned, is that the second that you stop fighting the body and the second you start supporting it, everything changes. And when you support it, you're supporting it with food. You're supporting it with what nature intended us to be eating. Everything changes. And I've never looked back.
Wow.
Mm.
Diego. And yes, Diego, my Diego, your Diego, those are the only two Diegos that I know that have four legs. And yeah, I thought that was such a divine union, and it always has been. And we will dedicate this episode to your Diego and
And yours.
and mine. Yes, they're pals. That I am confident. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like the stop fighting, start supporting. It's that simple. It's that hard because it takes right.
It's not simple, but that hard. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But I would also mirror you that, I've always been, an athletic person, really focused on my physical health. And, I tried to eat well, but it wasn't until I started focusing on Clover and Diego at that time in 2017, 2018, when you and I met, that then I started paying a little bit more attention to what I was eating, and I leveled up and I enhanced and I started to pay attention to energy and started getting into Reiki and muscle, just everything. And I started to change because at the time I thought I had to take Zyrtec, an antihistamine. And I remember consulting with someone in Rhode Island, and she said, "Well, what if you didn't take it?" Okay, what if I didn't take it? Well, maybe I would have a runny nose. And so she did some muscle testing on me and she's like, "Yeah, give it a try if you're so called." And Jonna, I did that night. I didn't take it and the next day I was fine. There was no runny nose, my eyes weren't itching, and I had no prescriptions and I still don't to this day. I'm very blessed, but I also attribute that to holistic, life. But all that to say is I stopped taking the Zyrtec. I have never had to take it since.
I love
And
that
I've
for you.
just mind blowing. Anyway, okay.
Which you're lucky. Not everyone has that same level of success, right? So you're one of the lucky ones, but, um, anyway.
Yes. No. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just one of those things that for me it was my Zyrtec, but for you it could be something else. And so it's worth the exploration. It's worth consulting with, Eastern medicine or different modalities and see what vibrates, what resonates with you. And that could be very different than me. And that is wonderful on your path as well, I have found.
Yeah, I mean, I love Western herbs just because that's what's in my backyard, and I think for every herbalist I've ever met, they always have, like, 10 to 15 herbs that are, like, their favorite herbs, and it's because it's what's in their backyard and what they really know. There are a lot of herbs that have overlap, right? And so I might say, Shashandra berry, and someone else may say holy basil. They're very similar adaptogens, but they resonate differently in the body, which is why, not to get off topic, but there are so many people with so many studies around ashwagandha, and ashwagandha is great, but ashwagandha is also a nightshade vegetable. And for people that have nightshade vegetable sensitivities, that's going to cause inflammation. So just knowing that everything that's out there isn't end all be all, that there are other layers and other possibilities. To the point, I always thought I ate well. When I lost my Diego, I was devastated, to put it lightly, and I didn't know what to do with my life. I was in a really horrible state of grief. He was my soul dog, and I have my little girl Lola, and luckily she and I would walk like 10 or 12 miles a day because I just couldn't be in my house. And I realized that that was not going to be sustainable. And I ended up going back to school to get my master's degree in human functional nutrition because I let myself go in my grief. And I realized that nutrition is kind of what kept me connected to Diego, if that makes sense. And so I got myself healthy, not only for me, but for him, because he would have been really upset if I had kind of gone downhill. I know that sounds a little silly, and some of your listeners may not necessarily understand that, but for the people that have the relationship with dogs like we do, hopefully they understand what I mean when I say that.
Absolutely. Love transcends all. It knows no bounds. And I have found myself more than once since Clover and Diego's passing, which I thought was going to kill me. But I'm here and I'm strong and I do things to represent them, to honor them, to celebrate them. And this podcast, this platform, sharing these messages and these hard talks. Some of this stuff is hard. Like I started to tear up when you were because I could feel your energy and how passionate you are for nutrition and for Diego. Like I can feel it. It's palpable. So of course I'm going to get emotional and I'm going to tear up and that feels good because I'm human and I'm feeling and yes. So I think that's very resonating and I appreciate that you shared that. So for Fetch, Rhode Island, God, I have said it once. I have said it 500 times since I left Rhode Island that I wish I had Fetch Rhode Island with me everywhere. And I have never stopped harassing you. I mean, emailing you or reaching out for advice over the years. We're in 2026 now. And so when you created it, this is so beautiful. You did it from the ground up. And I'm assuming this is the case, but did you have that vision when you started to create it that it's going to be a holistic boutique, mind, body, spirit, environment, and then and that just took shape and mold? Like I'd love to hear like your experience building that brick and mortar beautiful spot.
I mean, thank you. It is a labor of love, Fetch RI. I love it so much. I opened Fetch RI in 2014, and I opened it because my husband and I moved to a new area in Rhode Island, and there were no pet stores around. And obviously, my boy Diego needed special things, and I was like, if he needs it, so do other people. I will never forget the day that as I was thinking of how I was going to create the sign. I had found a graphic designer that I worked with on the logo, and it needed to semi represent Diego, but also a cat because I also work with felines, and we work have felines products in the store. And I said, okay, I need the sign to say a holistic pet boutique and supply store. And my husband said to me, holistic? No one's going to know what that means. And I said to the graphic designer, her name is Sarah, I said, Sarah, I'm like, do you understand what this means? And she goes, no. She goes, no one does. Now, this is in 2014. So I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if no one knows it is because I know what it means and I will explain it to them because this is who I am. It is mind, body, soul. This is how we are. And if those are not all aligned, you cannot have good health. And so that's basically, uh, that's how I started with the pet store. It was not only about good food, it was about mental stimulation toys and puzzles, and it was about things to chew on to also mentally stimulate them. It was about providing the right tools, the harnesses, the collars, whatever it may be, the weighted packs, so that a dog could move their body as it was intended to move. Our animals are not meant to be sitting on a couch. That is not honoring them. And so I wanted Fetch RI to be a location where people could come and understand that I've done the due diligence on all of the products. I have curated my store like it was a museum. Everything that is in my store is there for a specific reason and has a purpose. It may not serve a purpose for every animal or every household, but it is there for a reason. And the fact that I have been able to share that now, we're going to be celebrating 12 years on June 25th. Um, and we've been voted best of Rhode Island 10 out of the 12 years that we've been in business. And most of my business is word of mouth or referrals from pet parents and veterinarians, which to me means the most because that's the hardest segment to break into when you're living in a world where I really do talk about raw food and home cooking and fresh food all the time. I don't judge people that feed kibble. I say, if that's where you're at, I'm going to meet you there and let's do the best that we can wherever you are at on your journey. If that's the end stop on your journey, I honor that. But let's try to uptick that a little bit. What else can we do? And so I'm so blessed, Rebecca. That's all I can say is that I'm just blessed. And yes, I knew it was going to be holistic from the day I opened it because that's who I am. That was the little girl out in nature aligning herself with the trees and the sun and the ferns. That's just who I have always been.
Wow. That is so, I absolutely love that because it's something that in a recent realization for me, it's like you are who you are in your core and your essence. And you might forget, you might do the adulting thing, you might stray, and you even might enter a career field that isn't aligned with you. You might be amazing at it and really kick ass, but it's not aligned. And there's going to be signs, and the universe will get louder and louder until we pay attention. And but you are who you are at the core, and how just looking at that thread, the fabric of your life, and just how from the beginning and how the twists and turns and all the wonderful linear ways that we kind of arrive where we are today. And for me, it's that just being attracted to the human emotion. Like, we are the spectrum of the human emotion, and the power of the human spirit is unmatched, and we can truly conquer all. And I've seen it from a little girl. I've seen it certainly as an NCIS agent on a global scale. I'm seeing it as a podcast host. People are so capable. We are so powerful. And it's just fascinating to me, intoxicating, if you will.
I agree. The older I get, the more I explore. I hate the word manifestation because it seems so like woo woo. and it's not woo woo, right? Like, but when we were young, we were told you can be anything you want to be. And we really can. If you believe it and you visualize it and you move towards it, you can have it. I had no retail experience whatsoever. I had no idea what I was doing. I had I was in the financial sector. It was the love of my dog and a need to support his body that I suddenly realized I can incorporate what I do with herbs and help him. And then when I went to school for canine and feline nutrition to become a clinical pet nutritionist, like it the path, I didn't know how, Rebecca. The path just showed itself before me because I was driven, because I knew that there was a need and that I was going to be able to fulfill that need and be that for someone and also be that for myself. And I mean, I think that's the most amazing thing. I didn't have that understanding in my early 20s. I'm so happy. We all joke about aging and you get into your 40s and people say you're almost over the hill. Like, I'm still in my 40s for a short amount of time. And I feel like every single step or sidestep or misstep I have taken, I have fallen forward. And that is what really makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I've seen this gosh, so many times, certainly on my podcast, but the reasons come first and then the answers will follow. If your what and your why is strong and you have a conviction in your bones, which you did, the how is going to reveal itself.
Hmm.
It just happens. I've seen it too many times. It's happened with me. And I'm also glad that you called out, yeah, I know manifestation. I fully believe in it.
Well, I
And
do too, but it
fully
sounds woo woo.
it does. I know it's so polarizing, law of attraction, law of vibration, law of resonance. Like I absolutely align with all of those. And I always like to anchor it to neuroscience, like the electromagnetic energy around our hearts and our brains. We can measure this. Look up
Yes.
the Heart Math Institute. You become a Wi-Fi signal. This is frequency. This is measured. This is science. And I always kind of like to anchor it because I similar to you, I love to study and I love science. My degree is in forensic and investigative science, but I have an appreciation for biology and chemistry and physics and all of the things that I had to take. And when you root it in that and your brain understands that, then we want to assign a meaning to it, and it just becomes more to you. It becomes more prevalent and in the frontal lobe, the boss part of your brain. And so I do think it's helpful when we talk about all this because we can do that. We are here to create whatever that looks like for you. So, okay, I'm going to switch gears. So now this is human and pet, and we know that people want a quick fix. They want a quick fix. And sometimes in the holistic way, it's not always quick, right? And so I'd love to hear, it could be, but I would love to hear from your expertise and experience, Johnna, for for those that want a quick fix and they come to you, whether they're a human or a pet, and they want something done now, and maybe that's not the case, how do you kind of train them or allow them to see that sometimes things could take a little bit of time?
That's a really great question. So we're really talking about band-aids. That's what the quick fixes are. Um, and I'm okay with that because sometimes you have to stop the bleeding, right? And that's what a band-aid will do. And so I have that conversation with people. Like if you are having GI distress, there are some really great dietary changes that you can make. There are some herbs that you can use that will very quickly, in a short amount of time, in under 1 to 3 days, kind of remedy that GI issue. But the conversation that needs to be had, that if you aren't changing your behaviors, if you're not changing the trigger that is causing those downstream effects, then all you're doing is perpetuating a state of dis-ease, right? Um, Unhealth, whatever you want to call it. And not everyone is open to that. And it has been one of the most I'm being really vulnerable right now. Like it's one of the most challenging parts of my job is to be able to know when to let go because I'm not the right person for the person in front of me. And that doesn't happen often. Most times people are energetically, they find their way to me. Um, but the conversation, I think, always needs to be bigger than what people think it is. And so I hope I'm answering your question because I feel like I lost track a little bit, but I feel like if a person is coming to me and they're saying, I'm having anxiety, and oh, by the way, my dog is barking all the time and they're having GI issues, that's when the light bulb goes off. And I have sometimes what is a hard conversation, which is something that I really believe strongly in, is that we share inputs underneath our roof between us and our pets. And oftentimes, the majority of the time, what impacts us is impacting our pet, or what is being exhibited in our pet is low lying, affecting us as humans. And so they're clues. And so I like to look at them not as this is a bad thing. This is a clue that we can pick up, take, and try to improve upon. Let's make changes. Just the idea of stress alone, right? Like anxiety and stress changes motility. It changes the way the digestive process occurs in the body and expedites it most of the time. Um, and so there's just so much crossover that I love being able to help not only the person in front of me or the dog or the cat in front of me, but to also be able to kind of bend backwards and say, do you see this connection? Because this also applies to you or vice versa. And now we are helping everyone under the roof. We're helping everyone be happier together. Everyone, it's such an intimate connection that we have with our pets. I have had people tell me I have had more pain and suffering from the loss of my cat or dog than my parent. And that is no disrespect to a loving parent. We are around our pets all the time. They are when we are sad, when we are mad, when we are anxious, when we are frightened beyond belief as to what's going to happen. Our pet is right there with us. Maybe not a cat so much. Cats come and go, but the dogs are like right there beside us. And they take on some of that for us that we just owe it to both ourselves and our pets, I think, to explore deeper than surface level symptoms.
Amen. Yeah, I completely align with all of that, and I've been better. I have improved in my grief with Diego's passing than when Clover passed, and I was a train wreck. I had moved to a new state. I completely switched career trajectories after 15 years. I didn't know anybody, and there was a lot going on, so I wasn't in a great state. And I tried to compartmentalize, and I buried it down, and that wasn't great. And Diego was fine at the time, thank God, but Ivy stopped eating for a couple of weeks, and I was just so in my grief and in my feels that I wasn't as present with her as I needed to be. So my sweet little Diego, he passed a couple of months ago, and I have been more aware and just letting myself just wash over. If I need to cry, I cry, which is pretty much every single day. And I tell Ivy, you don't need to take this on, baby. I'm okay. And I'm more communicative with her. And I know some people might think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, it makes a difference. And I've been really trying to be better for her, better for me. And that doesn't mean be strong and don't cry and don't let myself feel it. But it means that I'm being more open with it and not closed off, that I'm letting my channel be open and I'm letting myself cry and feel the emotion. And when I have a good memory of Diego and I'm outside hiking with Ivy, I let myself enjoy that and not feel bad. How could you be smiling when Diego just passed? No, he's here with me, right? He's here energetically. And I share that with Ivy. And it has brought us closer together in these last 2 months. My sweet Ivy is 7 years old.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, if you think about it, we all are, but animals, they are energy beings. They do not have the linguistics. So they are looking and feeling. They're looking at us. They're looking at our expressions. They're feeling what we're feeling. And listen, you didn't know this. when Diego passed, because I've always been able to, when animals come into the store, I've been like, "Oh, your animal, like your dog Jojo isn't feeling so good, huh?" And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" "No, they're fine." I'm like, "Yeah, are you sure about that?" And they're like, "Well, they did just throw up." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. He kind of just told me." Like I've always been able to kind of get that energy from animals. I actually have this woman who her dog Ruby has come in, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what's going on with these blue and white striped curtains?" And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know, but she just showed me a picture of blue and white curtains. This is a little woo woo, Rebecca." And she goes, "So we just got new curtains in our living room, and she keeps getting her ball stuck behind the blue and white striped curtains." So I tell you that because we can communicate with our animals. So when you're saying to Ivy, "I have this, you don't need to carry this for me," I can't explain to you how. I'm not that well educated in that area of science. I don't know that we are yet as a human species to know, but they understand. They know they don't need to take that off of us, and they play a different role in our lives at that moment in time. So I love that you're having that conversation with Ivy. And I'll tell you personally, it took me about 7 or 8 months before I could bring up my Diego's name around my little girl Lola, because I was devastated and I didn't want her to have negative associations. I didn't want to confuse her. Like, I was really projecting a lot of my stuff on my dog. And when I started saying his name in the house with my husband, and we start joking and we start laughing about all the good, all the amazingly phenomenal memories that we have millions upon, her demeanor changed. She got lighter. And it's just fascinating how much we can learn from animals.
Yeah. And they are truly some of the best teachers out there, and so much so I wrote a book Unleashed, about the holistic leadership, mind, body, spirit, and all of the amazing lessons that they impart to us. And it's funny, I after I published my book, which was just such an ease and flow, it was one of those, I actually thought of it when you said this, that I don't know how to write a book. I had no plans to write a book. I had finished a meditation and I was journaling, and it came out of my pen.
Wow.
I wasn't thinking about it. And then boom, within a few months, it was on Amazon. I can't tell you how I did that, John. Like, I can't, I mean, I can tell you every Sunday morning I came in here and I closed the door and I spent a couple hours. That's mechanics. But how did I figure everything out? How did this happen? It was divine, and it was this gift, and they do things so naturally and beautifully. And I could talk all day. Clearly it's my our passion. But I'm going to switch gears because I want to have a few more questions before we part ways here today. So, hypnosis. I find this fascinating. Why is willpower not enough?
Because our subconscious is habitual and keeps us safe. So it's really, obviously this has nothing to do with dogs and cats, just so that everyone listening understands that I'm not pretending that I put animals under hypnosis. I do not. Um, how I became, God, everything points back to my Diego. I became, more familiar with hypnosis because I was grieving the loss so hard, and I couldn't function. And I went to see a therapist, and the therapist was like, "You need to go on medications." And I'm like, "Nope, I don't need to go on medications to deal with grief. I need to deal with my grief, and I don't know how." And she's like, "Well, go see a hypnotherapist." So I'm like, "Okay." And within like 1 or 2 sessions, things started shifting. And I found it fascinating. And so what I love about hypnosis, and just for your audience knows, we're not talking about quacking like a dog or making someone bark like, I'm sorry, quacking like a duck or barking like a dog. Um, it's really what I do as a hypnotist is that I use your words and your message to communicate to your subconscious so that it can feel safe, feel protected, and move forward in the direction that you want. Willpower is our conscious mind trying to white knuckle through things. And you can't white knuckle through life when you have this innate protector, which is your subconscious. So the hypnosis just allows you to connect on that deeper level. And it is amazing what can happen when you allow yourself the vulnerability, right? Because you have to trust the process. And what I tell you really have to want it, right? Like if you come to me and say that you want to quit smoking, but you don't really want to quit smoking, it just your partner saying you need to quit smoking or your doctor saying you need to quit smoking or it's costing too much money, you're not going to quit smoking from hypnotherapy. Like it's just not going to happen. You have to want it. And when you want it, I have seen people that have been smoking for 20 or 25 years. I don't know why I'm using smoking as an example, but it's an easy one. In 1 to 2 sessions, done, not picking up cigarettes again or vaping again. And it is so phenomenal. Um, I mean, if you just think about even what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, visualization, right? Like that's really what it is. You're just having someone else help you in the process. I mean, I've self-hypnotized myself several times. I think everyone should learn how to do it. I can be there to help people, because not everyone is comfortable or wants to know how. For those people that are just like, just do it and let me be past this, it's great. But I think it's a great practice to have that in your own toolbox for when you're stuck. Um, we hold so much in our subconscious and we have so much power there that I think that being able to tap into that as a tool is one of the like sorry for being simple, but one of the coolest things
Do not
that
be
you
sorry.
have.
Do not be sorry. No, I have been fascinated over the last several years with it. I've never been to a hypnotist, but I have been to several Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats in person, and he infuses it in his meditations. And I have personally experienced the word trippy is coming to mind, but that may be polarizing word. This absolutely otherworldly. Oh my God, how did this happen? You know, we started a meditation at 04 in the morning. I would have sworn to you, Johnna, that it was maybe 2 hours long. And then it was over 5,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
losing space, losing time,
Yeah.
just absolutely going to this beautiful brain wave. And, you know, we're in beta now and then going into alpha and then theta. And it's just so beautiful and we can create. And yeah, so I don't want to dovetail too much, but that's my experience. And I know that it kind of intersects. And yeah, it's a powerful thing for people that are interested in
It
learning more.
is. I would definitely recommend, even if you only see a hypnotist once, it's a different experience just because, and I think Joe is phenomenal. There are a lot of great people out there that use hypnosis, but when it's en masse, it lands a little differently. When you have one on one, there is a session that happens before the hypnosis where we're really getting down to the nitty gritty, where I'm asking you, this is what I'm hearing. Is this landing? Because if you say something to me and I'm now repeating it back, I can see physically if you're like, and if I see any type of hesitation or movement or discord, I know that when I have you under hypnosis, your subconscious is not going to believe it. And if your subconscious thinks I'm telling it a lie, it's never going to work. So having that one-on-one, it is really your message with my words that I'm kind of working through your subconscious. And that's where real shifts can happen because I'm using your data. I'm using your words, your emotions, your experiences, your memories. And that's how we're going in. And we're just slightly shifting to a place of safety and being protected, but also allowing for change because change can be safe. And that's the subtle shift between general on mass hypnosis versus an individual. Um, they're both very useful, right? You can get a lot out of either or and or both. I'm a yes and kind of girl.
Same, same, same. I'm like, I want to try it all. I
Yeah.
haven't done it yet. The
Yeah.
operative word, right? Like when my intuition speaks, I listen, and I've really been exercising that muscle over the last few years. That if it's I say, F yes, I'm moving. Like, let's go, right? I'm not going to hesitate. I'm not going to question it. Analysis paralysis. Maybe I should, no, because then it's a no. And anyway, I find it fascinating, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's powerful for a lot of our listeners who might be interested in it or don't know anything about it. That is a beautiful introduction. So we have a lot of high performers, go getters that are listening to this podcast right now, and a lot of them are stress balls, and they are just feeling it. They're running on fumes. They're going to probably head to burnout, but they're like, no, I got this, like stress, stress, stress. And so for those folks that are listening to us right now, and maybe it's through hypnosis, maybe it's through nutrition, or in your experience, what is something small, something easy, something they can start doing now to improve, however slight, their stress, their overall well-being, mentally, physically, spiritually?
Another great question, Rebecca. So I am all about layers. I'm going to answer your question, but then expand a little bit. I think there is nothing better that someone that is stressed can do than wake up an hour earlier than you normally wake up. Grab a piece of pen and paper and just write for 5 to 10 minutes. And then if you can, just sit outside or walk outside in the morning sunlight. We know what that does to shift circadian rhythm. We know what it does to help with melatonin production later at night, because the second thing I'm going to tell you is sleep. And sleep is really hard for people that are stressed, which is where hypnosis comes in, because you can get hypnotized to kind of allow yourself to sleep deeper. But I'm going to say get up early in the morning and give yourself you time. I started doing that about 2 years ago, because though I sound, easy breezy nature, I am also a stress ball. I have been an entrepreneur for almost 30 years of my life. And I'm a get shit done girl. Like, that's what I do. And that taxes you. Um, and I started getting up and just making time for myself and getting out in the morning. And I am sleeping amazingly well now. I will say, cutting out food 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep is important. Not drinking alcohol 2 to 3 hours before bed is also really important, because you can have some reactive hypoglycemia that gets you up at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then suddenly the brain starts going crazy and you're thinking you woke up because you have all of these stress thoughts on work, when in reality you woke up because of a blood sugar spike, I should say hypoglycemia would be a dip. Um, and then your brain just doesn't shut off. So um, there's like that's four things essentially: wake up early, get out and take time for yourself, and write. Write anything. There was a book, oh my god, I can't remember. Is it The Art of it was a book I read like 30 years ago, where you're like just supposed to mindlessly journal for like 30 minutes a day without any idea, just keep writing. I forgive sorry to the author. I don't remember. It's The Art of something. Um, Probably the easiest memory name that I'll remember as soon as we're done. And just journaling just kind of frees the pathways in your body. So get up early, journal, get out in the sun early so that you can reset your circadian clock, support the melatonin production, stop eating and drinking 3 hours before bed, and just sleep. And then nutrition would come after that, because you asked for quick things. Nutrition, most people, that's a journey, unfortunately.
It sure is. It sure is. And, I can, attest that doing the morning sunlight, I do it every day, and it really, truly, truly makes a difference. Like these subtle things, I think so often we can overcomplicate things or think it's hard, but just start with something basic, right? Like I started with going outside and getting that morning sunlight. And I always remember Sarah gets us up, serotonin, Mel puts us to bed, melatonin. And then that triggering, and again, it's rooted in science. I can explain this, I understand it. And then not having caffeine for the first 60 or 90 minutes, doing, holistic movements. Like there's just so many things and gifts that you can give yourself. Don't take too much time. You might be a little uncomfortable. Your body might throw a little temper tantrum, but that's because it's something new. Our brains want to keep us in the known and familiar, we're aware of that. So we start small, we get used to it. It's flexing those muscles. So, well, I could ask you 500 more questions. I won't. I won't today, Johnna. So my last question for you is I ask this of every guest. What is one message, theme, or takeaway that you would like to leave our listeners here with today as it pertains to either leadership or self leadership, holistic leadership, mindset, or performance?
Never give up on yourself. That is the most important, to me, the most important message to any leader, because sometimes the ship needs to be righted and we can have doubts, and sometimes things seem just too big. And I fully and firmly believe that if you never give up on yourself, that you can accomplish anything you want, and you can right the ship, and you can do anything you need. So in good times and bad times, just that's that.
Thank you. Beautifully stated again. And before we part ways, where can people find you and learn about your business, whether for their four-legged friends or maybe for themselves? Where can we send folks to learn more about you?
You can visit, I have multiple websites, so wholehousenutrition.com or fetchri.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at Johnna Devereaux.
Wonderful. I will include all of those links in the show notes below. From my heart, from Ivy's heart, from Clover and Diego's heart to yours and Diego's and Lola's, thank you for everything that you are doing in this world. You have certainly made a difference in my life, and I'm not going to cry because we have shared so many tears. I mean that from my heart to your thank you. I can't express my gratitude enough in all of these years.
Thank you. Thank you so much.